Hello and welcome back to a mod a day. As you can hear, I am much less sick than I was the last time I recorded one of these. Okay, so thankfully my voice is doing much better. It's still a little bit rough, but we are getting there. And I was able to record both parts of this video on time, which is super awesome. We had enough suggestions this week to make this week sort of themed. There is one exception because I really wanted to add something specifically this week, and even more specifically before the 3rd of summer. You'll see why in a second, but I just wanted to remind you guys this series is only possible thanks to your suggestions, so please be sure to share your favorite mods below. Now, getting right into things, I'm going to get our off-theme mod out of the way right away, and that is Faust the Gravekeeper. Faust is an NPC built to work along with Stardew Valley Expanded, and he lives up on the mountains by the hot springs. And that's why I wanted to get him added before the 3rd of summer, because that is the day when the mountain path is cleared. So we won't actually have to meet him today, but I did make sure he wasn't able to running smoothly. We do have in my notebook that I need to buy cows and dragons, but the barn isn't actually done today, it's done tomorrow. I did my math wrong, so we'll have to wait on that. But it is Taryn and Jesse's birthday, so I'll keep an eye out for gifts for them. I walked outside, and man, the farm is a mess. All of my crops are dead, and it's just a general, mess. Ignoring that for the moment, though, I checked my mail, and let's see, junk mail from Joja, ew. Oh, Dad found a picture of Grandpa, find a spot to hang that up later, and was there as a gift for me? I'll have to drop by sometime this week and see what he wants. I checked the bundle listings just to kind of make sure I was still aware of what needed to be done. And I'm going to need 5 gold star quality melons and corn. So I'll want to prioritize those with my seeds. I'll also need 1 each of tomato, pepper, melon, and summer squash. That's really not that bad. I ran over to Pierre's wanting to shop before I broke my back tilling, and he doesn't open till 9. Oops, that's alright. Let me talk to a few folks in town square. We're heading in and spending basically all of my money on seeds. That's fine. I went back to the farm and spent the next several hours tilling, planting, and watering my first batch of summer crops. I also took care of the chickens. We don't have any large eggs yet, but we are getting closer. I checked in on my ores. I'll need 1 more copper to finish upgrading my tools, plus 5 more for the mana extractor. I'll need to go mining, but it's just too late to do that today, especially when there's opportunity for summer forage, and I've got to find gifts for people. I made a nice big loop of the map, gathering up everything I needed for the summer foraging bundle, and my first 2 pieces of moss. Very exciting. I dropped the forage off at the community center and got 30 summer seeds as a reward. I'll plant those later, probably after my first melon harvest. I unlocked the vault bundle, which I am far too broke for. I went back home with gifts in hand, and I forgot that this save does not have the mail services mod. So, sorry, Taryn and Jesse, it's too late to trek to the scarp and give you your gifts in person. In my shame, I decided to make a mortar and pestle, got it set up for automate so I could get some bone dust and maybe other things, I don't know. I went to bed realizing I probably wouldn't even be able to buy dragons tomorrow with how broke I am, but worry not. Before this weekend's, I am going to go to Marnie's and buy animals. I promise. Drifting off to sleep, it's time to add the next mod and begin our theming for the rest of the week. And that theme is animals. I got a surprising amount of animal suggestions, so naturally I decided to make a themed week out of it, and I am so excited. Tonight we'll be adding Larky's Strawberry Cows mod, which allows Marnie to sell pink cows that produce strawberry milk. There were a couple different strawberry cow options. I wasn't suggested Larky specifically, but I decided to choose Larky's because it had been updated the most recently, as in at least after 1.6 had dropped, and it adds a few new recipes aside from just strawberry cheese, which will give us an actual use for the milk besides selling or aging it, which is, pretty nice. And although we won't be able to afford any yet, you can best believe we'll be getting one as soon as we can. As the next day begins, it's actually nobody's birthday, which is kind of insane. Checking the mail lands us a letter from Joja, saying that the landside will be cleared by tomorrow. Oh, that's awesome. And a letter from Taryn meant for Big Bear. Ooh, I'm gonna have to take that over to Sig. After knocking out my chores and grabbing some copper from Clint, I headed off towards the scarp, only to see Taryn pacing around the bus stop, freaking out. As tempted as I was to mess with him, I was nice. I reminded him that we met at the flower festival, and he reintroduced himself as Sergeant Taryn Barnes, coming to town to stay with the Bears for a while. However, without Gunnar to act as his guide, he had gotten lost. Thankfully, that was exactly when Sig arrived, and they had big hugs before we parted ways. As they left, I'm about 90% sure that I saw the ghost of Chase booking it through the trees and fences, but it moved so fast I really couldn't be sure. You guys saw that too, right? I'm not going crazy, right? Anyways, I remembered Clint's and remembered that I'm too broke to actually upgrade my tools. Yeah, well, since I don't need to go all the way to the scarp anymore, it's up to the mines I go. On the way, I met Gunner Bear, and he's starting a shop near the mines. I checked it out, and he's got some interesting inventory. Yeah. Mateo gave me an elven ring that he found as I was heading in, which I'll have to give to Gunther later, but I decided to start at floor 35 in order to get a bit more copper before I hit the ice floors. I made it to floor 45 with extremely full pockets, and decided to call it a night. My chests were getting pretty full, so as I was sorting things, I decided to do a bit of late spring cleaning, and I sold a couple things at least once to get the shipping bin icon to go away on them. I also checked my mana extractor recipe, and the only thing I'm missing now is a river jelly, which means tomorrow's going to be a fishing day. I filled my pockets with geodes and artifacts and headed off to Eepee's. As I was drifting into dreamland, a massive explosion shook the night. I'm sure that was fine. Yeah. Anyway, I leveled up in mining, and I think I might be able to afford at least a regular cow now. That's just in time, honestly, because tonight we'll be adding brown cows give chocolate milk. After being informed about the strawberry cows mod, one of my sisters demanded to know if there was a chocolate cows mod, and while there isn't, at least as far as I could find, this one seemed like a close enough substitute. Today is Rodney's birthday, which I'll need to keep an eye on, and other than that, there's really not too much happening, and oh, I got a visit from Susan. It's so good to meet her finally. I should pop up and see Faust the next time I go to the mountains. I got a letter from the mayor informing me that he'd lost his lucky purple shorts. He promised some kind of reward if I could discreetly return them. I agreed, but we're probably not making that one too much of a priority, given our current friendship, or lack thereof, with Marnie. After knocking out my chores, we got our first large eggs. Heck yeah. I ran down to Marnie's, ready to spend my day's savings. Yeah, dragons do need a fancier barn. I was a bit worried about that, but that's okay. It makes sense. We'll get them eventually. I also was right that strawberry cows are a bit more expensive than regular cows, but that's okay, because I can actually, afford a regular cow. Barely. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't look too closely at my wallet right now. I bought a brown cow and named her Selene, after the Greek Titan goddess of the moon. It's a bit of a stretch, but technically still on theme. Haha. I ran to donate my artifacts to Gunther and was rewarded with a standing geode. I can't afford to crack open more than one geode, so I figured I'd get Rodney his gift first and then forage some to try and sell to Pierre. On my way out of Clint's, I caught Morris and Lewis talking outside of Joja. Apparently, when Joja was blasting away in a landslide, Robin's house was hit by the crossfire, and Susan was terrified out of her mind because she hadn't been told anything about the operation or when it was happening. Morris refuted that everything they did was compliant with the law. Lewis, sadly, backed down, and man, we gotta get this guy a spine to stand against Joja. Otherwise, they're gonna. Okay, yeah, no, Morris just fully implied that Joja was a cult, straight up. After that interesting conversation, I was able to give Rodney a flower and head over to Pierre's, which is closed because it's Wednesday. Yeah. Well, I'm broke though, so I guess I'm selling to Joja, and you can't actually sell anything to them. Actually, that one makes sense. I'm not surprised. So, guess I'm going fishing then. It took me most of the day, but I managed to get a river jelly. I ran home, made my mana extractor, hooked it up to the mortar and pestle chest, and I dropped into Bream Since the machine said for yeah. Since the machine made fish made for good reagents, I figured that was a solid plan as any. I went to bed, leveled up my fishing, and we can afford another cow, which is really good because I do need a white cow now so I can get regular milk, so I can get a large milk for the community center. The next mod I'll be adding, while sadly not cow themed, is still of course related to animals. This is the Hootin' and Hollerin' mod. This mod allows us to find owl eggs out and about as forage, and once we have a better coop, hatch them to raise. It also comes with an aviary building, which we'll have to build in the future to house our owls in. With everything now enabled and working hopefully smoothly, let's get right on into our next day. It's Jass's birthday and it's raining, well, thunderstorming, which means I don't need to worry about my crops. I had some kind of ghost letter though, which was really weird, but probably fine. I collected my mana orb, which means it's time to head to the wizards. Since Marnie's was on the way, I decided to do a little bit of fishing while I waited for her to open. It took me a lot of cycling, but I finally managed to acquire a white cow and named her Helios to match Celine. Yes, I'm aware it's a male name for a female cow. It's fine, it's on theme. That's more important here. I still can't buy a milk pail, sadly, but since both Helios and Celine are still babies, I should have about a week before I have to worry about milking them. I headed off to the wizard and he gave me the recipe to make a cauldron. Apparently, he wants to try and develop the potential that the forest spirits see in me, and that starts with brewing potions. He gave me a few basic recipes to try, and I cannot wait. I also gave him the mana orb. He said it was a bit dull, but that's fine. The more practice, the brighter they'll be, and that was really it. Nothing else really came from that conversation. I stopped by Marnie's to give Jess her gift, now she's awake and outside of her room, and then headed back towards town. I caught Harvey pacing around the town square, and I learned the war has been impacting the medical supply chain. That's not great. Apparently, Harvey's a trained chemist, which does help the situation, and apparently Grandpa used to help the clinic by bringing them medical tinctures as backup herbal medicine, which helped a lot. He literally gave them years upon years of extra stock, and they're just now starting to run out, which is absurdly impressive, actually. Maybe we'll be able to help them somehow? We'll have to see. I cracked open my geodes and dropped off the artifacts at Gunther's, and I was rewarded with a large futon bear. I'm starting to think he's run out of things to give me as a reward, and he's just started giving me things from the spare room, but it is kind of cute, so I'll set it up at home later. Since it's raining, what better time to stop at a graveyard? We did have to clear some trees away from Faust's house, and tragically learned he'll be spending all of today in bed. I'll have to check him in the morning. But for now, since I'm up in the mountains, I decided to spend some time fishing at the lake, since I really haven't done that recently. I also realized I really should invest in a better fishing rod so I can put some of this bait I keep finding to use, but that's a later problem. As I was sorting away my haul, lightning barely missed me, which was kind of insane. Unable to fall asleep so soon after a near-death experience, I decided to do a quick loop of Cindersap for some moss, and I caught Shane drinking by the pond. This man needs hugs, ASAP. If you've played Stardew Valley and you've gotten Hearts of Shane, you know what that cutscene was. He needs some love and support. I finished my loop with 3 more moss, bringing me halfway to what I need for the community center, and I finally fell asleep. As fishing and bidding leveled up, I prepared to add the next mod in our set. This one, unlike the last few, we'll actually be able to see take effect right away. This is the active and useful pets. It's really exactly what it says on the tin. Our pets will now be able to explore the valley and bring us supplies, as well as unlocking useful abilities as they grow. With Loon now set to start exploring, let's go ahead and wake up and oh my gosh, green rain is tomorrow. It feels really early in the season, wow. Excuse me. I stepped outside trying to figure out how I should prepare myself for the coming day, and met Rodney. Apparently he's working on a new book of short stories and wanted my opinion on which piece he should work on first. I told him he should write the tale of a shadow folk who embarks on an adventure to lift the curse once cast upon his people by an evil wizard. He said I need to do some research on shadow folk, but he said he was excited about the project, so hopefully we'll get to see progress on that sometime. I got a few letters, the wizard giving me a recipe on Cindersap warp totems. Marnie informed me she's now selling large incubators, and the wizard again, this time suggesting I get some fish ponds ready for newts and lampreys, since I'll need both of those for my potions. And speaking of potions, I got 2 requests for those. Harvey wants some moonberry tinctures, and Marlin wants a barkskin brew. I'll need to make a tincture bin and my cauldron first, and I'll have to figure out how to get glycerin, which is kind of like a key ingredient in the potions. And, I'm also going to need oak resin, stone, and bone dust. Oak resin's easy. I got a tapper hooked up to an oak tree. I just have to wait like a week for that one. Stone and bone dust, that's going to be a little trickier, but, not that hard at all, really. While I was cutting trees, I managed to find some radioactive goggles that don't actually protect from radiation. Okay. I moved the mana extractor around since it took from a skull yesterday, and I need those for bone dust. And with everything now newly sorted, I did my chores a bit out of order, but I got everything done in the end. Since there's going to be rain tomorrow, I thought about trying to upgrade my watering can, but I need about 300 more gold first. I did a forage run and sadly didn't get my things sold in time to get to Clint's, so I'm going to have to wait for the next rain. I did, however, manage to meet Faust. This man eats hugs. That's my first impression of him. During my foraging, I was able to get the last of the moss I needed for the forest bundle, so I went ahead and turned all that in, and I was rewarded with a charcoal kiln. That's alright. Now, since there's going to be green rain tomorrow, I went ahead and went to sleep early, so I didn't accidentally exhaust myself or anything. And while we slept, apparently the green rain has a bigger effect on the valley than I thought, because we're going to be adding the More New Fish mod. This mod adds about 140 new fish to the valley, and I'm sure this won't cause any problems in trying to complete fishing quests or bundles. With the green rain descending, we technically have 3 birthdays today, but only 2 that count because I haven't met Oliver yet. Sorry, buddy. I stepped outside and, well, I guess the postal system is still running today because I wanted a subscription to a fishing magazine. Sig sent me some hardwood, Robin's now building aviaries, and Gus is offering shelter at the saloon. I'll have to check on that later. I started running around chopping trees, and I tried. Okay, I want it on the books. I tried to give Chase a birthday gift, but the game physically would not let me. And I don't know if that's a green rain thing or what, but he would not take the gift. Anyways, I was then faced with the duality of man as I encountered Demetrius in a hazmat suit 2 feet away from Rodney in Spock cosplay. That was an encounter. I checked on Martin's schedule, and sadly he doesn't come into town on Saturdays, or just because of the green rain, which meant I couldn't give him a gift either. I talked to some people, and it seemed like people couldn't really decide if they were panicking, if they were fine, if this was just like natural phenomena, just a little funky bit of nature, or if the world was ending and they were all going to die. And then there was the third category, which was Eli, who was sitting out dancing in the rain waiting to activate his radioactive superpowers. Never change, Eli. Never change. I'll be honest, I spent most of the day just chopping down type 3 trees because those give you fiddlehead ferns. I dropped one in my chest for the community center at the end of the day, and then I almost had a heart attack with the sale worth of my stack. I think it's safe to say our money issues shouldn't be a problem for a while. And I also was able to pick up some mossy seeds while I was cutting down trees, so hopefully we can get some more of these growing, and I can just make a nice little farm out of them. That'd be really nice. I headed off to sleep at a definitely decent hour. Don't look at the clock. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And it's time to add our final mod of the week. Finishing off our animal week, we're going to be adding Befriend the Crows. This is actually a pretty neat mod that lets us unlock a new building for Robin, so we can leave gifts for the crows in the hopes that they'll stop eating our crops. Even though I have a scarecrow that stops them from eating our crops. Don't think about it too much, okay? The traveling merchants in town today and the Queen Sauce taught me how to make baked fish, which is awesome. That sounds amazing. And I got my first fishing magazine, which was mostly just tips about where to fish for beginners. I knocked out my chores and realized the last ingredient I need for a good cauldron is about 200 stone, which is really doable. I decided to drop off my hoe for an upgrade first and then head up to the mines. On my way into town, I had a chat with Demetrius, learning how Stardew Valley got its name. Apparently, there was a huge meteor shower about 1,000 years ago, and the star trails looked like dew on a web. So when they were naming the valley, they chose Stardew in honor of that event. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I gave Clint my hoe to upgrade and then decided to give Robin a quick peek, just kind of see what sorts of things I should be working on. The crow feeder is about 1,000 gold, 50 wood, 2 iron bars, and fire quartz, which is going to be tricky until we hit the lowest levels of the mines. And then I checked the aviary, and You know, suddenly the crow feeder recipe doesn't look that bad. Yeah. I spent my time running between floors 10 to 20. At least that was the plan. I wanted to get some extra copper while I got stone and save on energy. Except that I ran out of energy, didn't have any food, and had to leave earlier than I wanted to. Thankfully, though, when I got home, I was able to eat a piece of bread and break the last couple of rocks I needed. I got the cauldron set up and I poked around with it a bit. I'm definitely going to need to do some more work in the future, though, and figure it out a bit better. Before heading to bed, I decided to make a few notes for my future self. First thing, we need a tincture bin. I will get that as soon as my oak resin finishes processing, and they'll be able to start making our potions. We need tinctures to make potions. Second, I want to buy a strawberry cow. I had actually wanted to do that today, but then I got sidetracked with the cauldron thing, and that I didn't have enough time to make it down to Marnie's to buy it before she was not there anymore. Yeah. My final goal is that I need to figure out how to make glycerin, since I kind of need that as like a base for everything, apparently. And with those goals in mind, I closed my notebook and drifted off to sleep. Oh, and I love living foraging. Sadly, as I fell asleep, there'd be no new mods to add because we've hit the end of our week. It feels like it's coming sooner and sooner with every episode I record, and I cannot wait to record the next part of our adventure. And if you'd like to help contribute to the journey, be sure to let me know what mods you want to see added to this series. But for now, I'm Jay, and I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye!